Most people are unaware of the power that each of us possesses, but that's the truth no one wants to even hear, because this power also comes with enormous responsibility. So if your life is a mess, if your mind is chaos, your path unclear, it's not because someone took your power, it's because you gave it away. And here's the part you'll hate. You gave it away because it's easier to be weak, easier to say, "I can't," easier to drown in distractions and call it destiny. But James Allen saw the lie beneath that comfort. He saw that your thoughts are not just private noise, they are blueprints for who you become. They're prayers, spells, silent builders of your reality. And the reason you suffer is because you keep casting the wrong ones. This isn't self-help, it's self-confrontation. Because the world doesn't change when you get what you want. It changes the moment you decide who you are. And if you're brave enough to take back the one power you've always had, you'll realize you were never a victim, just a creator in denial. We've been trained to think of thoughts as private, weightless things, little flickers of mental activity that come and go, mostly harmless unless we act on them. But James Allen saw something different. He believed that thought was the first and final cause, not just a spark, but the fire. To him, your entire life is a mirror. Every friend, every failure, every strange twist of fortune, it all reflects the sum total of your habitual thinking. Not just what you think when you're focused, but what you think when you're lost, when you're alone, when you're bored, angry, afraid. Because that's the real you, not the mask, not the persona, but the inner architect that never sleeps. He wrote, "Act is the blossom of thought, and joy and suffering are its fruits." It's not enough to say we want peace or clarity or power. If we still think in patterns of envy, blame, and fear, we will build the opposite. It's not punishment, it's mathematics. And that's the terrifying beauty of it. You don't become who you are through luck or fate. You become who you are by feeding thoughts that align with that identity. And every time you repeat one, consciously or unconsciously, you carve it deeper, until it no longer feels like a thought, but like the truth. But here's the trap. If you don't see your thoughts as powerful, you'll never take responsibility for them. You'll think the world is happening to you, that the chaos comes from outside, and you'll wait for someone else to change or apologize or save you, never realizing that the only war worth winning is the one inside your own mind. James Allen doesn't offer a feel-good fantasy. He offers a brutal clarity, a clarity that says, if your thoughts have created this prison, they can also build your escape, but only if you're willing to stop decorating the cell, only if you stop clinging to the thoughts that keep you small, because every single one of us lives inside a self-made structure, built thought by thought, belief by belief, and most people never find the door, because they never believe they put themselves there. Now think for a moment. What if the thoughts you dismiss as harmless are actually the blueprints of your suffering? What if the life you're living isn't wrong, just perfectly aligned with the story you keep repeating in silence? There's a reason you keep returning to the same mental prison even after you've broken out of it 100 times before. It's not because you're weak. It's not because you lack motivation or discipline. It's because no one ever taught you this, that your thoughts are not just habits, they are identities, and every identity wants to survive. You've been conditioned to think of you as a fixed concept, a personality, a set of preferences, reactions, traumas, wounds, and goals. But that's not the real you. That's just the scaffolding your mind built to survive, and now it won't let go of it. James Allen warned of this when he wrote, "A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thoughts." Most people misunderstand this. They think it's about positive thinking, that if you repeat enough affirmations in the mirror, you'll become a better person. But Allen was saying something much more dangerous, that the walls of your mental world, everything you believe about yourself, about others, about reality, were built by you, thought by thought, word by word. And the most dangerous part is, you've grown attached to those walls, even the painful ones, because at least they're familiar. You say, "I'm just not confident. I've always been this way. I need X before I can do Y." But you're not describing your reality. You're defending your prison. Allen believed that the mind, left unattended, becomes its own captor, not because it wants to hurt you, but because it fears the unknown even more than it fears suffering. So your mind chooses the pain it knows over the freedom it can't predict. Think about that. How many of your habits are just defenses against uncertainty? You keep checking your phone because silence terrifies you. You stay in the wrong relationship because loneliness seems worse. You chase approval because not knowing who you are feels unbearable. You don't fear failure. You fear facing yourself with no distraction. But here's the core truth. Every thought you reinforce becomes a part of who you are. Every time you say, "I can't," every time you shrink back instead of stepping forward, every time you believe the inner critic instead of the deeper voice beneath it, you cast another vote for the prison. You reinforce the cage, and slowly, without realizing it, you become a prisoner who guards the keys. James Allen wasn't promising some fantasy. He was warning you that if you don't become the master of your thoughts, you'll become the servant of your patterns. And most people, tragically, will spend their entire lives doing just that. But you don't have to. You can dismantle the cage, not by force, not by fighting it, but by watching, by noticing the voice that says you'll never change, and realizing that's not you. That's just an echo, a pattern, a thought with no master. The moment you see it, truly see it, it starts to lose power. Because thoughts only rule in the dark. The moment you shine attention on them, they dissolve. That's the hidden power. Not brute force, but awareness. Not control, but clarity. Not shouting over the noise, but listening until it fades. And when it does, you begin to see something terrifying. The cage was never locked. You were always free to walk out. You just didn't believe you could. But if that belief was a lie, what else have you mistaken for truth? What else have you accepted as fate? That was really just fear? Because what James Allen is about to show us next is that your outer world, your reality, is nothing more than a mirror of this inner prison. And once you begin to shift the inside, you'll realize how much power you've had all along. You think life is happening to you. You think the people who ignore you, the opportunities you miss, the struggles that seem to follow you are just bad luck, or bad timing, or bad karma. But what if James Allen was right? What if all of it, every single moment of your life, is just a mirror, not of what you say you believe, but of what you actually think underneath the noise? Allen wrote, "The outer world of circumstance shapes itself to the inner world of thought." Most people read that and move on, but sit with it for a second. The world shapes itself to the shape of your mind. If you live with fear, you'll find more reasons to be afraid. If you expect betrayal, you'll interpret kindness as manipulation. If you see yourself as small, the world will never give you the space to grow. This is not metaphysical woo-woo. This is how attention works. Your subconscious filters out everything that doesn't match what it expects and amplifies what it already believes. So if your mind is polluted with resentment, doubt, and self-judgment, your reality will reflect that. You will unknowingly place yourself in situations that match your inner world. You will attract people who treat you like you treat yourself. You will sabotage the good things because deep down, they don't feel like you. This is the great irony of suffering. We think we're victims of it, but in many cases, we're authors of it. Not because we deserve to suffer, but because we don't yet believe we're allowed to be free. There's a voice in you, planted long ago, that says, "You're not good enough. You don't belong. You're always the outsider. You'll never change." And then you live your life gathering proof that it's right. That voice becomes your lens. And suddenly, everything, from the way people speak to you, to the jobs you apply for, to the risks you avoid, all of it becomes a silent confirmation. This is who I am. But James Allen's philosophy cuts that lie open. He said, "As the physically weak man can make himself strong by careful and patient training, so the man of weak thoughts can make them strong by exercising himself in right thinking." He doesn't say, "Think positively." He doesn't say, "Repeat nice phrases and your life will change." He says, "Train. Train your thoughts, discipline your attention, catch yourself before your mind spins the same story again. Interrupt the loop, not with force, but with awareness. Because once you become aware of the lens, you can begin to change the picture. This doesn't mean bad things stop happening to you. It means your reaction to them, your perception of them, starts to change. And over time, that shift alters everything. You start seeing opportunities where you once saw threats. You start speaking your mind where you once stayed silent. You start walking into rooms like you belong there because you do. You stop chasing validation because you no longer see yourself as someone who needs to earn their worth. You realize the world didn't hate you. It was just responding to your own self-rejection. That's the part that breaks people. Because it means the loneliness, the fear, the failure, it was never proof that you were broken. It was proof that you'd been taught to think small. And you kept thinking it until it became real. Alan wasn't saying you can magically wish your problems away. He was saying that who you are becoming is being decided by the thoughts you keep allowing. And the world, with all its chaos and beauty, will rise or fall to meet the level of your belief. So if you feel stuck, unloved, or invisible, ask yourself this: what inner story is the world trying to show you? Because the outer world doesn't lie, it reflects. And if that reflection feels cruel, maybe it's time to look deeper at what you've been telling yourself in silence. Because the story can change. It already is. Now, if your thoughts shape your world, then the next question is even harder. What shapes your thoughts? You think your thoughts are yours, but most of them aren't. They were handed to you, in moments you barely remember, by people who didn't know what they were doing, and you've been repeating them ever since. James Allen told us that thought is the seed of character. But what if the seed was planted by someone else? What if you've been growing a life based on beliefs you never chose? Think about it. The way you talk to yourself when you fail, who taught you that voice? The fear you feel when you imagine being seen, known, or loved, who made you think you didn't deserve it? The hesitation in your chest when opportunity knocks, whose doubt are you carrying? Because someone, somewhere, made you feel small, and you believed them. And then, you did the rest of the work for them. James Allen warned, men do not attract that which they want, but that which they are. But who you are was shaped long before you had a say. The child who grew up walking on eggshells, the teenager who learned that silence was safer than truth, the adult who smiles while shrinking. These aren't random identities. They're the echoes of early lessons. And now, even in freedom, you still obey the ghost of a rule that was never yours. That's the tragedy of the human mind. It doesn't forget the wounds. It adapts to survive them and calls that adaptation me. But that me is optional. That's the fire James Allen tried to light in people. He wasn't writing for comfort. He was writing to shake the sleepers awake, to say, if your thoughts can shape the world, then who taught you to think in chains? Who taught you to call fear realism? To call submission humility? To call emptiness normal? Because the truth is this: you've never actually met yourself. You've only met the version of you shaped by survival, not by vision. And now, your deepest suffering might not come from the outside world, but from the inside war between who you are and who you were trained to be. So how do you reclaim your thoughts? How do you find the original mind before the world touched it? You watch. You begin the brutal, beautiful work of observation. You catch yourself thinking, I'm not good enough, and pause, not to replace it with a fake positive affirmation, but to ask, where did that thought come from? Who planted it? And once you see it clearly, you can choose. James Allen didn't believe in quick fixes. He said, a man only begins to be a man when he ceases to whine and revile and commences to search for the hidden justice which regulates his life. In other words, stop blaming the world and start looking within it, not to hate yourself, not to find more flaws, but to trace the origin of your pain and stop dragging it into every room you walk into. This is the real work. This is where healing becomes transformation. You learn to question your patterns. You learn to interrupt your mental loops. You learn to sit with discomfort, not because it feels good, but because it's the only doorway to freedom. And somewhere along the way, you meet yourself again, the real self, the one who existed before you were told to shrink, before the labels, before the masks, before the roles you played to survive. And for the first time in years, maybe ever, you stop running from your own reflection. Because now, You're choosing the thoughts, not reacting to them, not obeying them, but shaping them, like a sculptor shapes stone. That's what James Allen meant when he said, "Man is made or unmade by himself." In the armory of thought, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself. He also fashions the tools with which he builds for himself heavenly mansions of joy and strength and peace. Every day, you are either reforging the chains or the key, and the world will respond accordingly. But there's one final lesson that James Allen left behind, one most people never notice, a lesson not just about the mind, but about the soul. Because behind all this inner noise, there is something deeper waiting to be heard, and if you can hear it, everything changes. There is a voice inside you that never shouts. It doesn't panic, doesn't beg for attention, it doesn't rise above the noise. It waits. It waits for the moment you become quiet enough to listen. And most people never do. Because the modern world has trained us to fear silence, to run from stillness, to drown out the whisper with 1,000 distractions. We scroll, we click, we chase, we call it living. But deep down, something aches. Something feels off, like we've missed a message meant only for us. James Allen called this inner voice the divine essence of thought. He believed that when you strip away the layers of ego, fear, and conditioning, what remains isn't emptiness, it's truth. Not truth that can be shouted from a stage, not truth that wins arguments or fills journals, but the kind of truth that rearranges the soul, quietly, permanently. It says, you are not your fears. You are not your failures. You are not the story they told you. You are the one who watches. You are the one who chooses the next thought. And in that space of choosing, you become powerful. Not because you've mastered everything, but because you've remembered something most people forget. You don't have to obey your mind. You can observe it. You can shape it. You can use it instead of being used by it. And that is where your real life begins. James Allen warned us that until we reclaim our inner world, we'll remain slaves to the outer one. Because the world has plans for your mind. It wants to rent it. Advertisers want your focus. Politicians want your fear. Algorithms want your dopamine. Culture wants your conformity. And if you don't choose your thoughts, someone else will. They'll feed you slogans that feel like beliefs. They'll feed you roles that feel like identity. They'll feed you rules that feel like truth. And they will win. Not because they're strong, but because you're silent. That's the war you're in. And the battlefield is invisible. It's in the way you wake up in the morning, the way you speak to yourself when no one's watching, the way you explain your failures and define your future. Each moment is a vote. Do you serve the system or your soul? And that's what James Allen truly meant when he said, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Not as he wants, not as he says, not as he pretends, but as he thinks, deep in the quiet places he never shows the world. So what if you stopped pretending? What if, for the first time, you built a life from the inside out? No more trying to manifest things while avoiding your shadow. No more reciting affirmations to hide from shame. No more spiritual bypassing dressed up as positive thinking. James Allen's forgotten truth is that real transformation isn't about feeling better. It's about becoming different. And becoming different requires you to die, not physically, but psychologically. You have to let the old self fall apart, the one built from other people's opinions and survival strategies. You have to watch it crumble without running. And when the dust clears, you stand in the silence, stripped of illusion. That's where the whisper lives. It doesn't promise comfort. It doesn't offer applause. It simply says, you were always free. You just had to remember. And now, everything in your life, from the way you speak, to the people you let in, to the work you do, will either honor that voice or drown it out again. That is your choice. And it's the most important one you'll ever make. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to show some love by clicking the like button. Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going. And if you want to keep growing, consider joining our community by subscribing to this channel and clicking the notification bell to never miss new insights. Until next time, keep shining, not to be seen, but to see.